Hey guys. Tonight, we wander the marble streets of ancient Rome beneath moonlight that glints off polished togas and helmet crests. The city smells faintly of crushed bay leaves, oil lamps, and warm limestone dust. You hear the clop of sandals on cobblestones, the hushed Latin prayers of temple priests, and the slow splash of water in carved fountains. Above, stars fade against a sky heavy with history, and below, in hidden chambers beneath great temples, punishments stir in silence. Tonight, you step through shadows and past history's sleepy veil, down into a world of justice so strange it almost feels like fiction. But it's not. This is where a broken vow can bury you alive, where laws are written in wax and blood, and where even the most sacred Roman maidens are not safe from the state's peculiar wrath. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And while you're at it, let me know your location and what time it is where you are, because Rome never slept, but you deserve to. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You are standing inside the House of the Vestals, the most sacred female space in the Roman Forum. The air is cool and smells faintly of melted beeswax and pine resin. White marble statues line the corridor, each a silent watcher carved in flowing robes. These women, the Vestal virgins, keep the sacred fire of Vesta burning without pause. It must never go out. That fire represents the soul of Rome itself. You're here because the punishment for failing this duty, or for breaking the vow of chastity, is beyond comprehension. Not just exile, not just disgrace. If a Vestal is found guilty of intimacy with a man even once she cannot be executed by blade or flame, she is sacred. Instead, she is buried alive. A small underground chamber is dug outside the city walls in a quiet field near the Colline Gate. Inside, there is a bed, a loaf of bread, a lamp, and a small jug of water. She is led there in total silence, wrapped in white, her head bowed beneath a heavy veil. The Pontifex Maximus, Rome's chief priest, raises his hand. Soldiers withdraw. The ground is sealed above her. No one speaks. The silence is part of the ritual. You stand beside that chamber now. The earth is freshly packed. There are no markers, just the faint hum of insects in the tall grass. It is said that even the birds refuse to sing on burial day. Historians still argue whether any Vestals ever truly survived this punishment. Some suggest the rituals were symbolic, and the women were quietly exiled or imprisoned elsewhere. Others claim the silence was deliberate. Rome preferred not to speak of such deaths. But one story lingers. A Vestal named Cornelia, accused unjustly, raised her arms and declared her innocence as the earth closed above her. The crowd, it said, stood in stunned silence. The fire of Vesta flickered that night. You press your hand to the stone at the Temple of Vesta. It's smooth, worn down by centuries. You feel the faintest pulse of warmth where the eternal flame once burned. And suddenly, the justice of ancient Rome doesn't feel so distant. It feels very close. It breathes through the stones beneath your feet. Elsewhere in the city, a different kind of judgment unfolds. Rome's laws are harsh but precise. They rely on ritual spectacle and symbolism. A Vestal dies in silence, but others die in public, loudly, violently, without mercy. You move away from the temple district now, past sleeping stalls, past the shadows of the basilicas, toward the heart of the forum. Columns rise like petrified trees. An old senator walks by, his face lined like dried parchment. He does not look at you. At dawn, the crowds will gather. Trials begin early. And always, somewhere in the distance, a punishment is being prepared. Rome doesn't wait for justice to be perfect. It simply delivers it with conviction, with ropes, with iron, with stone. In your mind, you replay the ritual of burial again, the way the earth presses inward, the way the crowd holds its breath, the way the silence becomes its own kind of scream. You remember the white veil, the bread, the water, the stillness, and somewhere far off a wolf howls. That too is part of Rome's story. You awaken on damp stone. Your wrists are bound in coarse rope. Your body aches from the march. You hear animals nearby pacing, snorting, clawing at the sackcloth walls of something you're about to enter. They are bringing out the leather sack now. It's thick, double-stitched, and big enough for a grown man to curl inside. But you won't be alone. You've been sentenced under one of the oldest and strangest Roman laws for one of the worst crimes a person can commit: patricide, the murder of a father. Rome doesn't just execute a patricide. It isolates him from the entire natural order. You don't deserve to touch the earth, to breathe air, or to feel firelight. You are unfit for the world. So they will sew you into a sack called the culleus with 4 animals: a monkey, a rooster, a dog, and a snake. Each animal chosen deliberately. Each one representing chaos, mockery, aggression, and cold betrayal. You will die not by the blade, but by drowning in darkness, entangled in fur feathers, teeth, and scales. You see the dog first. It's not large, wiry, unfed, angry. Then the monkey trapped in a wicker cage, shrieking and flailing. The rooster flaps violently, wings clipped but still full of panic. The snake is silent in a clay jar coiled tightly, tongue flicking the rim. You don't know who came up with this. The law dates back to the 12 Tables of Rome, written in the mid-5th century BCE. It was rare, but when invoked, it was absolute. No appeal, no clemency. Not even the emperor dared interfere. This was ancestral law, harsh and ceremonial. Historians still debate the meaning of the animals. Some say they represent different vices. Others believe it was just shock value. But everyone agrees the experience was meant to be unbearable. Not just death, a complete disintegration of dignity. The executioners work fast. They place each animal in the sack, first forcing them through a narrow slit. You hear yelps, feathers, hissing. Then it's your turn. They shove you in head first. The world becomes hot fabric and panicked motion. The opening is sewn shut. Needles pierce thick hide. There is no light. You are dragged across the forum. Bystanders part. No one speaks. Even children look away. You are no longer a citizen. You are a curse in a bag. They lift the sack onto a wooden cart and roll it to the river. The Tiber waits brown and slow-moving, its banks slick with moss. The sack hits the water with a heavy splash. It bobs once, then sinks. Inside, the dog bites your leg. The monkey screams. The rooster claws upward. The snake coils somewhere near your ankle. The air grows thinner. No one knows how long it takes to die in there. Minutes, maybe less. But time slows when fear is constant. The sack pulls you down. Your lungs burn. There is no language left, just pressure and instinct and sound. Some records say the sack was weighted with stones. Others suggest it floated for a time, the struggle visible from shore. Rome didn't advertise these executions, but it didn't hide them either. The horror was part of the justice. A warning. You imagine a small crowd still standing by the riverbank, their sandals quiet in the wet grass. A magistrate may still hold a scroll. A mother clutches her child. A guard chews on olives. Chews on. Life goes on. There's something strangely bureaucratic about it all. This isn't revenge. It's policy. You broke the most sacred familial bond. You murdered the man who gave you life. So the state responds not with fury, but with procedure. Sack animals water. Done. But here's the odd part. This punishment was revived even during the Empire. As late as the 3rd century, under emperors like Septimius Severus, records show the poenacule was still used. Occasionally altered, some sacks had wild beasts swapped depending on what was available. In one account, a viper was replaced with a mole. Less dramatic. Still terrifying in darkness. Over time, the punishment fell out of use, replaced by more modern forms of execution. But the story stayed in Roman memory, whispered at dinner parties, studied by law students, and even centuries later, medieval writers referenced it as the ultimate example of state cruelty dressed in legal ritual. You're no longer in the sack. You're on dry ground again, watching as the Tiber flows slow and cold through early dawn mist. The sack is gone now, swallowed by the river. The monkey, the dog, the snake, and the man disappeared into brown water and silence. A child tosses a pebble. It skips twice, then sinks. Nearby, someone lights a fire. And far above, in a forum filled with columns and whispers, the Senate prepares for another day of judgment. You hear them before you see them. The roar of the crowd rises in waves, dull at first, then sharp as it bounces between stone walls. It smells like sweat, roasted nuts, and fresh blood. You walk slowly into the shade of the Colosseum's outer ring. Sand crunches underfoot. Somewhere above, sunlight pours through high arches, and ahead, the arena waits. You are not a gladiator. You are a criminal, or perhaps a slave, or maybe just unlucky. Today, you are part of a public spectacle called damnatio ad bestias, condemnation to the beasts. Not a trial, a performance. Rome knew how to punish with flair. In the early days of the empire, especially under emperors like Nero and Domitian, executions were designed as entertainment. Not just deterrent. Not just justice. You are here because the crowd expects a show. You wait in a cell beneath the arena. The walls sweat. Chains clink. Insects swarm the corners. There's no window. Just a grate above where cheers spill through like rain. You can hear the metal bars of the animal cages being slid open, one by one. Lions, leopards, bears, sometimes crocodiles, occasionally an elephant. Your hands are bound. Your tunic sticks to your back. You've been told not to run. Not that it matters. There's nowhere to go. A gate rises. Daylight strikes your face like a slap. You squint As the crowd gasps, tens of thousands of faces stacked in layers, eyes squinting behind shaded awnings. Someone throws a date pit. It lands near your feet. You are pushed forward onto the arena floor. It's larger than you imagined. Packed dirt, red sand, no place to hide. The entrance slams shut behind you. You are alone. Across the arena, another gate creaks open. The lion emerges first, massive, its mane thick with dust and old blood. It blinks against the light. The crowd hushes. You can hear its breath. You freeze. So does it. Historians still argue whether the animals were starved beforehand or drugged to make the encounter more dramatic. Some say handlers used hidden spears to provoke them from behind the scenes. Others believe the animals needed no coaxing. Hunger did the rest. The lion steps forward. You backpedal instinctively. There's no plan, just the urge to survive a little longer. You stumble near a broken barrel left as part of the props because these deaths are often dressed as scenes, mythical reenactments. You might be playing the role of Prometheus, or Orpheus, or just condemned thief number 3. In some performances, condemned men were tied to posts and dressed in animal skins so the lions would mistake them for prey. In others, naked criminals were fastened inside mock cages or hollow statues burned or mauled in character. Today, you are given nothing, not even a spear. The lion moves faster now. The crowd leans forward. Somewhere above, someone claps. Then it lunges. You dodge, not elegantly, but enough. You roll. The sand fills your nose and mouth. You crawl. The lion turns frustrated. Its claws dig trenches in the ground. You reach the far wall. A spear lies just outside the barrier out of reach. You don't try for it. You know the arena is shaped like a dish sloped enclosed. No exits from this side. The lion circles. It growls. It's waiting. Nearby, a trap door opens. Another beast appears, this one spotted leaner. A leopard. The air shifts. The crowd cheers again. 2 predators, 1 human. It's not meant to last long. Some victims were pardoned if they survived a set time. Not you. No pardon is offered. You hear a trumpet. The signal to begin. The animals close in. Above, the emperor watches from his shaded box, his face unreadable. A child beside him claps holding a small figurine. You wonder what you did to deserve this. Maybe theft. Maybe blasphemy. Maybe you were simply captured in a raid. Roman justice wasn't always precise. Sometimes it needed bodies more than it needed guilt. In later centuries, Christian martyrs would also face these beasts tied to stakes, praying aloud as the lions approached. The early church recorded many such deaths. But even before Christianity, these spectacles were routine, part of daily Roman life. You sprint. The crowd roars. The lion lunges again. This time you slip. The ground comes up fast. Your hands flail. The leopard leaps. Darkness. When you wake again, you're not in pain. You're seated now in the upper tiers of the Colosseum, watching someone else take your place. Another condemned man. Another animal. The cycle repeats. The sand is raked between scenes to hide the blood. Perfumed water is sometimes sprinkled to mask the stench. Music plays. Vendors pass trays of figs and cheese. Rome doesn't pause for death. It packages it. The man below trips. The lion pounces. It ends quickly. The crowd applauds. Some cheer. Others just nod bored. It's mid-morning now. There will be more executions after lunch. Perhaps a mock naval battle in the afternoon. Perhaps crucifixions. A hawk circles overhead. You close your eyes. The roar of the crowd fades into wind. You stand on a dusty road, the sun heavy on your shoulders. Behind you, soldiers march in pairs. Their boots thud in rhythm, dull and steady. Ahead lies a wooden post driven into the earth, and beyond that, hills stretch toward the horizon. This is not a battlefield. This is a path of punishment. You carry your own death across it. A wooden beam rests on your back. It's heavy, perhaps 70 or 80 pounds. Not the full cross, just the horizontal piece called the patibulum. Your arms are tied to it with coarse rope. Your tunic clings to your body with sweat. You've been whipped. You've been spat on. Now you walk barefoot toward execution. Crucifixion wasn't invented by the Romans. They likely borrowed it from the Persians or Carthaginians. But Rome perfected it, made it legal, made it public, made it normal. This punishment was for slaves, rebels, and the lowest criminals. Roman citizens were spared from crucifixion unless they had committed treason. For everyone else, it was a slow lesson in endurance, agony, and decay. You arrive at the site. A vertical post has already been fixed in the ground. You are forced to your knees. The beam is dropped beside you. The ropes are untied. Your arms are stretched across the wood again, this time nailed down one thick iron spike through each wrist. Not the palm. The palm can tear. The wrist holds. A soldier hammers without expression. You scream. Your legs kick sand. Another nail drives into the other wrist. You feel it grind through tendon. Nerves catch fire. Your fingers curl without command. The beam is lifted with ropes. You are hoisted upward and dropped onto the upright post. Your body jolts. The cross shakes once, then stills. Your feet dangle briefly before a small block of wood. A sedile catches your weight. It's not for mercy. It prolongs your death, keeps you from dying too soon. Another spike drives through your heels, anchoring your feet to the post. Blood drips slowly. You hang there breathing hard. Above you a sign declares your name and crime, not for identity, for spectacle. Every passerby must know why this happened. Theft, rebellion, murder. Sometimes just enemy of Rome. You shift your weight, shift your pain blooms in your chest. Your arms begin to burn with fire. Crucifixion kills by suffocation. The longer you hang, the harder it becomes to exhale. Your lungs fill slowly. You have to push up with nailed feet just to breathe. You're not alone. To your left, another man twists against his own beam. To your right, someone prays or curses, maybe both. You've been left here deliberately, where roads cross, where hills overlook. People pass. Some stare. Some scoff. A few cry. No one helps. Historians still argue about the exact positioning, whether victims were seated, whether feet were nailed side by side or separately. But all agree death was slow, sometimes hours, sometimes days. Buzzing flies gather quickly. Blood attracts them. So does sweat. Your skin feels feverish. You try to blink. Your eyes blur. Beneath you, a soldier leans against a spear. He's chewing something. Another one tosses stones to pass the time. They've done this before. Your mouth dries. Your throat tightens. Someone offers a sponge soaked in sour wine. It touches your lips. It stings. But you drink anyway. A bird circles overhead. Caws once. Moves on. You feel time stretch like leather. Hours pass. Shadows shift. The sun begins to fall. Your arms ache with fire. You push up again to breathe, then slump back down. The cycle continues. Lift, collapse, lift, collapse. Eventually, soldiers grow impatient. If the crowd has left, if the next shift begins, they break your legs with a mallet. That ends it faster. No legs, no breath. You hear the crunch beside you. Not yours. The man to your left screams, then falls silent. Sometimes they leave you hanging overnight. Bodies blacken in the sun. Birds pick at eyes. Wolves come after dark. But this time they take you down before nightfall. Not out of mercy, just protocol. The post is needed again tomorrow. You are pried off the wood like meat from a skewer. You fall to the ground in a heap. The cross is cleaned. Another man waits in the cell below. Your body is dragged away. It rains briefly that night, just enough to wash the sand dark red. Years later, someone will walk past that hill and wonder how many died there. They won't know your name. Only the post remains stained and cracked. Somewhere a soldier files a report. A magistrate signs a form, and a scribe scratches your sentence into a scroll. You fade, and the road stretches on. You wake to the sound of marching boots, leather soles thudding on dry earth. The smell of dust and sweat drifts through the camp. Somewhere beyond the palisade, a standard flutters in the wind, the eagle of the Roman legion glinting in morning sun. You are a soldier, or at least you were. But last night something happened. A desertion, a mutiny, a coward's retreat during battle. No one will say who started it, but the commanders are furious. Rome doesn't tolerate failure. Rome punishes together. The centurion calls the men to order. You form ranks shoulder to shoulder, 300 of you. Silent, staring straight ahead. Then comes the command decimatio. Your stomach drops. Decimation, a punishment as old as the legions themselves. 1 in every 10 men will die. Not by the enemy's blade, but by the hands of his own comrades. No appeals, no negotiations. You are told to form groups of 10. You stand in a circle, 9 others beside you. None speak, none blink. Each man looks straight ahead. A few swallow hard. Lots are drawn, small sticks marked with soot. A pouch passed down the line. You reach inside, fingers brush wood. You pull one out. It's blank. You breathe. Another man draws the marked one. His shoulders slump. The 9 surround him. They are handed cudgels, clubs, short, thick, carved for this moment. The condemned man doesn't run. That would make it worse. He kneels. The first blow lands with a crack. The second snaps something. The third caves in part of the skull. It takes minutes, sometimes longer. The body twitches, then stops. You step back, breath shallow. Blood darkens the dirt. Multiply that scene by 30. Across the field, cries rise and fall. Some men scream, others stay silent. The chosen fall one by one. Decimation was rare, but it was real. Used when morale collapsed, when entire cohorts fled battle. Under Crassus, under Augustus, even as late as Emperor Galba. It was meant to restore fear, not honor. Historians still debate its origins, whether it began in the Republic or earlier. Some claim it was exaggerated, but the records repeat it enough. Decimation was never frequent. It didn't have to be. The survivors carry the dead out of camp. The rest are denied rations for days. No wine, no bread. Just silence and long watches. You kneel beside a friend's body. His fingers are still curled in the dirt. A tooth lies a few inches away. You pick it up without thinking, then drop it again. Night falls slowly. A trumpet sounds. The sentries take position. You lie awake in your tent, staring at the canvas above. No one speaks. The entire camp breathes shallow. In the distance, wolves howl. Maybe jackals. You don't move. Next week, the Legion will march again. Morale will improve. Eyes will stay forward. The enemy will look less terrifying than your own brothers. Discipline is restored not through inspiration, but through ritualized terror. Decimation is not about fairness. It is about fear. And Rome is very, very good at fear. The oil burns quickly. You smell it first, thick, acrid, unmistakable. A black sheen clings to your tunic. Your hands are tied behind your back. You feel the soaked fabric sticking to your chest. The crowd watches from a safe distance. Flames are already flickering at the base of the post. You are wearing the tunica molesta, the troublesome tunic. A sleeveless shirt coated in pitch resin wax, or a mixture of all three. It clings tightly to your skin. Once lit, it doesn't burn away easily. It melts inward. Rome didn't always kill with animals or blades. Sometimes it used fire, especially at night, especially when the execution needed to be seen by many, or remembered. The crowd gathers slowly. Families, merchants, soldiers, children too. They stand beneath tall torches in the Campus Martius, watching the condemned take their places. You're not alone. There are others, each fixed to a post, each wearing the same flammable tunic. A soldier walks past with a torch. He says nothing. The tunica molesta was often used in mass executions, particularly under emperors like Nero, who is said to have staged nighttime burnings in his private gardens. Some of the condemned were accused of arson, others of rebellion. Some were Christians. Some were thieves. Some may have been innocent. All were flammable. Historians still argue whether Nero's infamous executions were as theatrical as later sources claim, whether he truly lit his pathways with burning men, whether music played in the background, but even the tamest accounts confirm the tunic's existence, the flames, the screams, the crowd. You shift your weight slightly. The pitch pulls at your skin. A soldier steps forward. He lowers the torch. The fire begins at your feet. It is not fast. The pitch bubbles. Your legs convulse. Heat rushes up your torso, climbing with terrifying precision. You open your mouth. No words come. The tunic was designed to stick, to hug, to trap. The burning happens in layers. Skin, then muscle, then deeper. There's no clean end, just a slow collapse. The crowd doesn't look away. They've seen worse, or so they tell themselves. The tunica molesta wasn't just about death. It was about message. A signal that certain crimes, especially treason or impiety, would not just be punished, they would be obliterated. Even the location mattered. Executions by fire often took place near temples or major roads. A burning body became a silhouette against the skyline, a human-shaped warning. You don't faint. Not yet. The brain holds on. Blood vessels rupture. The smoke thickens. The tunic holds fast. Your screams mix with the others. Several posts down, a man is already slumped, still glowing faintly. Another has gone silent. By morning, only ash and scorched wood remain. The posts are reused. The crowd disperses. No one speaks loudly. You are gone. But the smell stays. And the image of fire, climbing a man like ivy, burns itself into memory. Later that day, children reenact it with twigs. They light small cloth dolls. They laugh, not out of cruelty, out of familiarity. This is Rome, and Rome remembers through fire. The forum is hushed. You stand just behind a column unseen for now. Ahead, a crowd gathers in front of the Rostra Rome's great speaking platform. They aren't cheering. They aren't jeering. They are waiting. Every face tense. Every movement stiff. At the center, an older man speaks. His robe is heavy with insignia. His voice is level. He reads from a tablet. His words carry the weight of the republic, the law, the family. A woman stands on the platform beside him. Her hair is braided in the style of nobility. Her wrists are bound loosely in cloth. Her face is pale. Her name is Virginia, and she is his daughter. She has been accused of impropriety, not theft, not murder, but seduction or enticement. The details are unclear, lost in layers of gossip and legal phrasing. But here's what matters. The father has the right to punish. Roman law allows it. Under the patria potestas, the father's power, he may judge, sentence, and even kill. You hear whispers around you. Some doubt the charges. Others claim it's a trap by a magistrate with political ambition. But in this moment, the father has no choice. If he does nothing, he shows weakness. If he acts, he may lose the only child he has. He reaches into the folds of his tunic, produces a knife, holds it level, then plunges it into her chest. She collapses instantly. The cloth around her wrists drops like a broken promise. The crowd gasps, then falls silent. Her blood drips from the edge of the rostra. The father drops the knife and raises his hands. He says, "This is how a Roman protects his daughter's honor." No one moves to arrest him. Historians still argue whether the story of Virginia is true. Livy wrote it as part of his grand history meant to illustrate the excesses of tyranny and the power of paternal law. But whether it happened exactly this way is uncertain. Still, the tale became part of Rome's identity, a father's right to preserve family honor even through death. You step back from the column. This is not a singular case. Other stories echo across the marble streets. Fathers who beat sons for gambling, who banished daughters for unapproved marriages, who sold their own children into debt slavery legally. The patria potestas granted nearly absolute control. At birth, a father could accept or reject a newborn. A symbolic gesture lifting the child from the floor signified acceptance into the family. Failing to do so left the child exposed, abandoned outside the city. Inside the home, the father's word was law. No jury, no magistrate needed. You walk through a residential district, now simple stone homes with tiled roofs and small shrines near the entrance. Inside one, an argument unfolds. A daughter wishes to marry a local merchant. The father refuses. Her tears do nothing. The decision is final. She will marry a man twice her age with political ties. She does not resist. She simply lowers her eyes. This is not cruelty. This is Rome. Even noble women knew their limits. Their value was tied to chastity, obedience, and family honor. A misstep, real or rumored, could end their future, or their lives. And yet Roman women were not silent. Many wrote letters, organized estates, and managed households with sharp efficiency. Some, like Cornelia, the mother of the Gracchi, were revered for wisdom and strength, but all lived beneath the shadow of a father's authority. You return to the forum later that evening. The blood has been washed away. The tablet is gone. The knife removed. But the silence remains. No torches are lit. No speeches delivered. Only a small group remains at the rostra, lighting candles in the shape of a circle. Perhaps in mourning. Perhaps in protest. Perhaps both. You step into the center. No one stops you. You touch the stone where Virginia fell. It's cold, smooth, clean, but it remembers. Everything in Rome remembers. The hammer strikes stone. You walk through a narrow corridor of marble flanked by statues with their faces sheared off, noses chipped, eyes gouged, inscriptions clawed away with metal tools. This is not vandalism. It's a government order. You are witnessing a Roman punishment not of body, but of memory. Damnatio memoriae. The condemnation of memory. The Senate has passed a decree. A former general once praised, now disgraced, will be erased. His likeness destroyed. His name removed from official records, walls, coins, and even family tombs. It is as though he never existed. You reach a broken pedestal. The nameplate has been hacked into a jagged void. Only part of a Latin title remains CONSVL before the rest disappears into scratches and dust. Atop the pedestal, a statue once stood tall. Now only a foot remains. Bare, marble, cracked at the ankle. Rome punishes traitors in many ways. Crucifixion, beheading, exile. But this one lasts longer. This one turns the person into a gap in the historical record. You continue down the corridor. A fresco on the wall has been painted over. The outline of a face still shows beneath the red layer. It wasn't painted fresh. It was painted to forget. Damnatio memoriae was usually reserved for senators, emperors, or high-ranking officials who fell from grace. Not everyone qualified. The Senate had to vote, the emperor had to approve. But once passed, the punishment was thorough. Their portraits were pulled from homes, their inscriptions erased from public monuments. If a name appeared on a bronze tablet, it was melted down. Coins bearing their profile were defaced or reminted. In extreme cases, tombs were desecrated, bones scattered. You pause before a column that once bore the image of Sejanus, the powerful Praetorian prefect under Emperor Tiberius. Now it is blank. Even the joint where his bust once sat has been polished flat. His name, once shouted in the forum, is now spoken only in whispers. Historians still debate how effective this punishment truly was. After all, we still know many of these names. Their stories survived in letters, satire, and quiet mentions. Some even argue that damnatio memoriae ironically preserved their notoriety. Erasure drew attention. But for a Roman walking the streets in that moment, the silence was deafening. A statue removed from a public square left a visible hole, an empty niche, a scar in stone. You visit the archives, rows of wax tablets stacked like loaves of bread. A clerk sits hunched at a wooden desk. He thumbs through a list of past magistrates. Some lines are scratched out entirely, not blank, struck through with thick ink. You ask about a certain name. He shakes his head. Says no record. You nod. Move on. Outside workmen chip away at a triumphal arch. They've been at it for hours. The lettering is deep. It takes time to erase a name carved in glory. But they do not stop. The order is clear. You pass a coin shop. Inside, a boy sorts denarii into wooden trays. One coin glints differently, its emperor's face scraped into a flat oval, still in circulation, just defaced. You pick it up. It's smooth under your thumb. The emperor is gone. But the weight remains. A woman beside you whispers that her father served under that man. She keeps a hidden bust in her attic wrapped in cloth. She won't display it, but she won't destroy it either. Damnatio memoriae didn't always work. It couldn't touch memory itself. Families remembered. Soldiers remembered. Enemies remembered. But it changed what was official, what was seen, what was allowed. You walk to a temple wall where names of benefactors are etched. One line has been replaced with a blank rectangle of fresh plaster. The letters were chiseled away, then covered. The plaster doesn't match. The color is wrong. The gap draws your eye. That, too, is part of the punishment. Not total invisibility, but an absence that cannot be ignored. You place your hand against the plaster. It's cool and smooth. You press gently. Behind it, silence waits. Names stripped away. Faces blurred. Deeds untold. The wind picks up. Dust moves across the plaza. You walk on past rows of nameless statues, past broken plaques, past a silence loud enough to echo. Rome remembers even what it tries to forget. Especially what it tries to forget. You descend narrow stairs. The air thickens with every step. Cooler, damper. The flicker of a torch casts trembling shadows against stone walls. Behind you, the heavy door creaks shut. Ahead lies the Tullianum, the ancient prison beneath the Roman Forum. Few ever leave it. fewer still with breath in their lungs. You reach the bottom. The chamber is round, low-ceilinged, built from volcanic stone. It smells of wet mold iron and the faint memory of fear. This is not a jail. This is a place for endings. They call it the Tullianum, or the Lautumii. But among the people it is simply the carcer, the prison. It dates back to Rome's earliest kings. Built before the Republic, sealed in myth and stone, you stand where enemies of the state once stood, or knelt, or were dragged. There are no barred cells, no windows, no straw beds, just this chamber dug beneath the slope of the Capitoline Hill, accessed by a single stairway, and sealed above with a thick iron grate. You glance upward. A faint line of daylight seeps through. Footsteps echo on the stones above. People walk freely just a few feet overhead. But down here, time stops. A man is led in beside you. His hands are bound with rope. His tunic is torn. His name is whispered Jugurtha, the captured king of Numidia. Once proud, once feared, now broken. He does not resist. He knows what comes next. The executioner stands behind him, not with a sword, not with a blade, but with a simple length of rope. You press your back to the wall. Watch. Strangulation. Not public, not dramatic. No crowd. Just the choking sounds of rope tightening the struggle of limbs, and then silence. It is a quiet death, a political death. Executions in the Tullianum were reserved for traitors, spies, and defeated kings. Some say it was mercy. Others call it erasure. Historians still argue whether the executions were always carried out here, or if the Tullianum was more often used for holding than killing. But its reputation is fixed. It was the state's final word. Rome spoke with the noose. The executioner unties the rope. The body falls forward. No ceremony, no burial, just darkness. You walk to the far wall. There's a hole there, small, round, chiseled centuries ago. Some say it led to a drain that emptied into the Cloaca Maxima, Rome's great sewer. Bodies disappeared into it, or perhaps into legend. In later centuries, Christians would claim that Saints Peter and Paul were held here before martyrdom. Others dispute this. But the Tullianum has seen many names, many deaths. Catiline's co-conspirators, Vercingetorix, the Gaulish chieftain, Sejanus's supporters, enemies of the Senate and people of Rome. You run your hand along the damp stone. It's cold, slick with time. Scratches mark the walls. Initials, tallies, prayers. Someone has drawn a fish. Another, a single eye. You wonder who carved them, whether they died quickly, whether they had time to regret. Above, a voice echoes faintly. A guard. Then footsteps. Then silence again. The torch dims. The flame flickers. The shadows tighten. The floor beneath you is uneven, sloped slightly toward the center, perhaps to drain fluids, perhaps just old age. You can feel the curve beneath your sandals. The man beside you groans, still alive. Not everyone is killed instantly. Some are left to weaken. No food, no light, no voice, just time. You offer him water. He turns his head away, not out of pride, just weariness. They say the Tullianum was never full. It didn't need to be. Most prisoners were kept above ground elsewhere. This place, this hole, was for the condemned. You step back toward the stairs. They remain closed. Another torch is lit at the far wall. Another prisoner is led in. The cycle continues. Outside the forum bustles. Merchants shout. Chariots rattle by. The sun warms the marble steps of the curia. Senators debate grain prices and boundary stones. Life churns. Down here, none of that matters. Only rope, stone, breath, and the slow forgetting of names. The iron hisses. You smell it before you feel it. A sharp metallic tang in the back of your throat. The brand has been in the coals for an hour. The end glows white hot. A soldier grips it with thick leather gloves. He says nothing. You kneel in the dust hands tied behind your back. Your tunic is pulled down to expose your left shoulder. The brand is marked with a letter F. For fugitivus, runaway. You tried to escape your master's farm 2 nights ago. The guards found you just past the aqueduct road, chained you, dragged you back. Now you will not be executed. Not yet. But you will be marked. This is Rome's answer to disobedient slaves. Not death, not freedom. Something worse. The brand comes closer. You close your eyes. The sear is immediate. White light explodes behind your eyelids. Skin bubbles. You scream, but only once. The soldier steps back. The letter F is etched into your flesh forever. They pour vinegar on the wound. It doesn't help. The skin blisters. The smell lingers. You are pulled to your feet. Someone spits near your toes. Slave branding was not a rare punishment. In the Roman world, slaves were property, and property must be labeled. Runaways, especially those who dared claim their own freedom, were disfigured in public. A warning to others. A reassurance to owners. Some brands were initials. Some were full phrases. Tenator held. Service slave. Or simply the owner's name. Historians still argue whether every fugitive was marked or only repeat offenders. Some believe rural slaves faced harsher punishments than those in urban households. Others think the branding was more symbolic in certain periods, but the scars remain in records, in carvings, in bones. You walk now through a slave market in the Subura, a narrow street lined with cages, wooden platforms, and merchants calling prices. A boy, maybe 14, stands shirtless. A letter burned into his back. Buyers touch his arms, check his teeth. He does not speak. Elsewhere, a woman is sold with her infant son. She has no brand. Yet. But her wrists are scarred from ropes. Her eyes do not rise. Slaves in Rome were not always peasants. Many were educated. Some were Greek tutors, physicians, secretaries. But their status never changed. They could be whipped, starved, killed, or branded, at the master's discretion. You pause before a shrine to Mercury, the god of commerce. Someone has tied a scrap of cloth to its base. A prayer or a warning. You can't read the faded ink. In the field outside the city, slaves labor under sun, bent at the waist, faces hidden beneath straw hats. Overseers hold long rods. The rods swing often. You see one man collapse. He does not get up. No one stops. The punishment for theft is worse. A hand can be broken, a back flayed. If a slave steals from a citizen, the entire household may be punished. Some owners brand their slaves at purchase preventative control. Others wait until disobedience. But once the iron is used, the mark is permanent. No ointment, no balm removes it. You walk now through the baths of Caracalla. Slaves clean the marble floors, refill oil lamps, scrub mud from sandals. One man older, limping, wipes a bench. The brand on his thigh has faded, but it's still visible. A single letter. Red, then black, then pale white. You ask him his name. He looks away. You ask again. He says, "It was taken." You nod. Outside, the sun begins to set. Shadows stretch along the stone paths. The coals in the brazier still glow. The brand rests on a stone table now, cooling, waiting. Tomorrow, someone else will kneel where you did. Another shoulder. Another scream. Rome does not forget its slaves, and it does not let them forget themselves. The door opens with a thud. You are marched inside a grand hall lit with oil lamps hung from bronze hooks. Marble pillars reflect the golden light. Cushions line the floor. Music drifts softly from a corner pipes and strings out of tune from heat or indifference. This is not a courtroom. It's a dining room. But you are not a guest. You are entertainment. Senators recline on low couches, robes spread around them like sails. Platters of olives, figs, and roasted boar rest on tall stands beside their couches. Slaves move silently between them, refilling cups with spiced wine. The smell is sweet, then sour, then cloying. You are barefoot, bound at the wrists. Beside you, 3 others stand in silence. None of you speak. You've been here before. You know what comes next. A horn sounds. A servant steps forward announcing the next course not of food, but of spectacle. One of the guests claps lazily. He points to the largest of your group. The man is led forward. He does not resist. He is ordered to kneel on a low platform beside the table. A guard draws a small curved blade. With no ceremony, he slices the man's throat. The senators watch. No cheers, no screams, just nods. Conversation resumes. Someone asks for more honeyed dates. This is the Roman dinner execution intermitio supplicii, the intermission of punishment. It is not theater. It is not war. It is casual cruelty practiced during elite banquets. Executions between courses. A palate cleanser of blood. You step back instinctively as the guard wipes the blade and nods at the next man. Public executions in Rome were common, but private ones, staged for elite amusement, were quieter, more refined. The audience closer, the rules fewer. Historians still debate how frequent these events were. Seneca the philosopher wrote of witnessing a banquet where criminals were killed as entertainment. Some claim the account was metaphorical. Others insist it was literal. But Rome did not separate cruelty from culture. It blended both. The second man is ordered forward. He is forced to wear a mask painted like a mythical creature. The host laughs. A mock scene is enacted. He is made to dance briefly, then stabbed in the abdomen. The blade twists. The man crumples to the floor. The wine continues to flow. A senator tells a joke. Laughter rises. Plates clink. You are next. You are pushed forward, but not to die. Not yet. You are handed a prop, a wooden club. You are told to fight the final man who holds a short blade. Neither of you are trained. Both of you are terrified. The music resumes. You circle each other. Blows are traded. Weak, clumsy. One lands, one misses. Blood is drawn, then spilled. You slip, fall. The crowd grows louder. Then the guard intervenes. Both of you are pulled apart. Both of you are bleeding. One of you will be chosen to die. The host decides with a gesture. It is not you. The other man is dragged to a basin and drowned. Slowly, face pressed beneath wine and blood. You are allowed to return to your place. Still bound. Still alive. For now. You glance up. Oil lamps sway gently with the movement of the air. The pillars are streaked with old stains. Perhaps wine. Perhaps not. A servant kneels to clean the platform. His cloth turns red. He does not look at you. Later the bodies are removed, not buried, not mourned, taken to a pit outside the city, burned or left for birds. You step outside after midnight. The air is cooler, the stars pale. You hear music still playing faintly from within the villa. A lute, a laugh, a toast. You breathe, not because you are safe, but because you are not yet selected for the next course. The courtyard is silent. You kneel on polished tiles, your tunic torn at the sleeve. Blood runs in a thin line down your forearm. Not from war, not from a beating, from a cane, a hollow reed swung with deliberate force. You were caught with someone you weren't supposed to touch. Adultery. In Rome, that word isn't whispered. It's weaponized. A violation not just of trust, but of structure, of law, of male honor. Your father stands nearby, not shouting, just watching. The cane remains in his hand, his mouth a thin line. A magistrate sits to one side, tablet in hand, waiting to record the punishment, not deliver it. This is a domestic sentence, a family matter. Legal under the lex, Julia de Adulteriis, coercendis, a law passed under Augustus. A law that made personal shame into public consequence. You shift slightly. Your ribs ache. The tiles beneath you are cool. You try not to look at your mother who stands in the doorway with folded arms. Roman adultery laws were strict especially for women. A wife caught in the act could be divorced instantly. If her husband failed to report her within 60 days, he risked being labeled a pimp. Her lover could be prosecuted, fined, or worse, depending on his status. But even sons were not exempt. In your case, the punishment is handed down through family authority. Your father can order beatings, can disown you, can even if pushed, kill you. Historians still argue over how often fathers used this power. Some believe the executions were rare. Others point to documented cases where daughters were strangled in private, and the law allowed it. The difference was not in the act, but in who witnessed it. You lean forward, bracing as the reed whistles through the air again. The pain is sharp controlled, measured. Roman punishments prized ritual. The stroke count matters. The target areas, shoulders back sometimes. Feet are chosen to leave lasting pain but avoid immediate death. The magistrate scratches a note. The lover has already been handled, likely banished, or worse. But you are still part of the family. That changes the tone of the punishment. This is not erasure. This is correction. Your sister passes behind you, head down, silent. Her sandals tap softly on the stone. She doesn't stop, doesn't look. You remember the house law, posted near the atrium. A list of offenses and their consequences. Written in plain Latin, no flourishes, just rules. You broke one. You try to rise but are told to remain kneeling. The final strokes are coming. They arrive with dull thuds. Your breath catches. Not from pain, from shame. The kind that lingers behind the ribs. The kind that burns deeper than the welt. When it ends, the magistrate signs the tablet and nods. Your father hands the reed to a servant. It will be burned, not reused. You are told to stay in your room for 10 days. No visits, no guests, no letters. Your name will not appear on invitations for a while. Your inheritance may be reduced, or delayed, or reassigned. Later you hear rumors. A neighbor's daughter was killed by her own father last month, caught with a freedman. No trial, just a locked door. No one questioned it. No one dared. Rome's adultery laws were not made to protect love. They were made to preserve order, lineage, honor, inheritance. Blood must remain pure. Names must remain clean. You look out your small window. The sky is blue. The fig tree in the courtyard sways gently. A bird lands on the sill, pauses, then flies off. Tomorrow the wound will scab, next week a scar. But tonight you lie awake counting the strokes, and wondering if silence is the only way forward. The chains are too tight. They rattle as you shuffle forward. Your ankles sting where the iron has rubbed them raw. A sign hangs around your neck, swinging with each step. The letters are large, dark, and legible from a distance. They announce your crime to the entire city. The crowd gathers early. You walk slowly through the streets of Rome, past columns and fountains, past open markets, where bakers pause mid-need to stare where children point and whisper, and merchants pretend not to watch as they weigh figs more slowly than usual. You are part of a public punishment known as proscriptio ambulata, a shame parade. You are not executed, not whipped, not branded, at least not today. Today, the punishment is humiliation. At your side walks a guard with a staff. Behind you, a slave carries a placard listing your offense: theft, false testimony, or perhaps violating sacred ground. Whatever it is now public. This is not about justice. This is about memory. You pass beneath an archway and into the forum. The crowd is thicker here. Students from a nearby school pause their lessons. A man selling scrolls mutters something under his breath. The sun is high now. Heat rises off the stones. Your skin burns. You do not shield your face. You are ordered to stop before a statue. It's of a former magistrate's stern-faced gaze eternal. The guard raises his staff and loudly reads your crime aloud, word for word, twice. Then he turns to the crowd. No one cheers. No one speaks. They only watch. Public shame in Rome was not always loud. It was often cold, calculated. A man's reputation, his dignitas, was currency. To strip it publicly was to empty his pockets in front of the world. You are told to move again. Slowly. Around the forum perimeter, past the basilicas, past the Senate steps. You stop at each major corner. The crime is read again. The sign adjusted. Your chains clink. Historians still argue over the exact procedure, whether some offenders wore painted faces, whether they were forced to repeat apologies aloud. But the goal is clear. Make the punishment linger longer than the offense. You turn onto a narrower street now, the Subura district. Here the people are rougher. A few jeers rise. One man spits. A woman throws a crust of bread. It misses. The guard does not intervene. He only watches the crowd. You walk until your feet blister, then stop at a designated post. You are tied there standing upright. The sign is affixed above your head. A small stool is placed nearby just out of reach. For hours you stand as the sun lowers and the shadows stretch. People pass. Some pause. Some shake their heads and move on. You count footsteps. Eventually the guard returns. He unties you, removes the sign. The chains remain. You are led to a basin and told to wash your face. No towels, just water. You splash. Dirt and sweat swirl together. The redness from the ropes remains. You're given a new tunic. Plain. Coarse. No sandals. You are not permitted to return home yet. Not for 3 days. The shame must follow you. The neighbors must speak of it. Your friends must avoid you. Only after the required days can you resume normal life. But the memory will remain. Some who walk the shame parade never recover. Business partners vanish. Proposals are withdrawn. Even family ties can fray. You walk through a quieter street now. A boy runs past, laughing. A dog barks in the distance. Your shoulders sag. On a nearby wall, a faded inscription warns of public urination. The fine is steep. The letters are barely visible. But someone once stood where you stood. Someone else wore the chains. You reach a small shrine and sit beside it. Your legs tremble. The guard doesn't stop you. Tomorrow someone else will wear the sign. Today it was yours. Rome remembers what it sees. The scroll lies open on the table. You stare at the lines of ink, dry and absolute. Your name appears twice. Once in the opening statement. Once in the final order. Between them, a command. Let him die by his own hand quietly before sunset. This is not a trial, not an invitation. It is a sentence. You are in a villa just beyond the Esquiline Gate. The windows are shuttered. The courtyard is silent. A guard stands at the door not to protect you, but to prevent escape. You are not in prison. You are in waiting. Rome sometimes prefers silence over spectacle. For senators, generals, and other elites, execution by sword is crude. Public disgrace is messy. Instead, the condemned are handed the means of their own death. A quiet solution. A clean ending. You pour wine into a small clay cup, not to drink, to mix. A slave brings in the tools, a dagger, a bowl, linen strips. No words are exchanged. You sit on a low couch. The marble is cold beneath your feet. Your fingers tremble, but not from fear, from calculation. Where to cut? How deep? Which artery? Rome expects not a struggle, but a ritual. Across the room, your wife kneels by a small altar. She does not cry. She chants something under her breath. You do not listen. Suicide under sentence was a privilege, not a punishment. It preserved property. If you comply, your estate stays intact. Your family keeps their name. If you refuse and are executed, your assets are seized. Your legacy gone. Historians still argue how often suicide was voluntary. Some believe pressure made it compulsory. Others suggest that honor alone drove compliance. But whatever the motive, the outcome rarely changed. You grip the dagger, your pulse slows. You think of Cato the Younger, who opened his own belly rather than live under Caesar's rule. Of Seneca, who slit his veins while calmly discussing philosophy. Of Petronius, who reopened his wounds again and again, delaying death to enjoy one last conversation. Rome does not fear death. It fears dishonor. You lower the blade to your wrist. The skin is thin there, easy, efficient. You press. Blood rises slowly. The pain is clean sharp, not unbearable. A servant brings warm water. You soak your hands. The blood clouds the basin. Red ribbons dissolve into silence. You recline. Breathing becomes harder but not panicked. You feel your heartbeat in your temples, in your throat. Your lips grow numb. The room darkens. You are not alone. In the corner, your son stands. He says nothing. He watches. This, too, is education. Rome teaches through endings. Outside, the sun begins to fall. Light spills in narrow shafts across the floor. Dust drifts in lazy spirals. A dog barks once. Then nothing. A scribe waits nearby. Once the body is cold, he will record the hour. Witnesses will sign. The house will be cleaned. The scroll rolled and sealed. The guard at the door will report success. No burial in disgrace. No public display. Just a stone placed near your ancestors. A name chiseled carefully, neither honored nor cursed. You fade with the taste of copper in your mouth. The linen soaks through. The dagger rests beside you. The silence is final. The yard smells like iron and dust. You stand in the center of a crude square marked by posts and rope. Soldiers line the perimeter, arms folded, faces blank. Their armor gleams under the afternoon sun. A small pile of stolen goods sits nearby, jugs of wine, a satchel of coins, a dagger, and several small figurines carved from ivory. You've been accused of theft from a fellow legionary. The punishment will not be delayed. Rome has no tolerance for disorder within the ranks. You are told to strip to the waist. You obey. The wind brushes your skin. The centurion steps forward with a thick leather strap, wide, double-layered, soaked in brine. The flagrum. Designed not for correction, but for pain. You are tied to a post arms above your head, ankles bound. The first lash lands with a sound like tearing cloth. You grunt, grit your teeth. The pain is immediate, like hot wire dragged across your back. Blood rises quickly, beating into thin lines. You count each strike silently, not out of habit, but to endure. Military punishments were swift and brutal. Rome demanded discipline. Theft among soldiers was considered betrayal. Disrupting the trust within a unit meant weakening the machine. Punishment had to be visible. Another strike, then another. The strap wraps around your ribs. You cry out. A soldier behind you snorts. Another looks away. You will not be executed. Not for theft. But this punishment will mark you. The welts will scar. And more importantly, the shame will follow. Historians still argue about the standards of punishment within different legions. Some commanders allowed flogging for minor infractions. Others reserved it for major violations. But across the empire, consistency was less important than the message obedience or consequence. You feel a new trickle of blood down your spine. The centurion pauses. The strap hangs at his side. You sag against the ropes. Someone splashes water on your back to keep the skin clean for the next round. The commander gives a nod. It continues. 20 strokes. Then 30. The strap splits at the edge. One lash lands across your shoulder, catching your neck. You wince. The crowd shifts. Finally, it ends. The ropes are cut. You collapse to your knees. Your breath rasps in your chest. A medic presses a damp cloth to your back. You flinch. It stings worse than the strap. You are given a single hour to recover. Then you will resume duty. There is no medical exemption, no discharge, no note in the record that explains the punishment, only the bruises. Later that evening, you sit alone near the edge of camp, rubbing salve into your wounds. Another soldier walks past, doesn't speak, just nods. You nod back. A bond born not of friendship, but of survival. In some cases, more severe theft, especially from the army's stores, meant worse. Some were demoted, others chained, a few executed. But often punishment was public and physical. Pain, humiliation, and then return to formation. You lie back on the dry grass. Above you, stars begin to appear faint and patient. The wind rustles the tent canvas nearby. Your back throbs in slow rhythm. You will not forget today. Neither will they. The gate clanks open. You feel the chain tug at your wrists. A guard pushes you forward. Sunlight floods your face as you stumble into the arena. The noise hits next, cheers murmurs the distant thump of drums. You squint upward. The crowd sits in rows, robes like river ripples, heads turning faces unreadable. You are not a gladiator. You are not armed. You are bait. Across the arena, a heavy wooden door begins to lift. Dust swirls beneath it. You brace. From the shadow, a low growl. Then a lion steps forward. Its eyes narrow. It blinks in the sunlight, muscles rolling beneath golden fur. You freeze. You've been condemned ad bestias to the beasts. Rome used this sentence for rebels, slaves, criminals, and sometimes Christians. It was not quick. It was not fair. It was spectacle. The lion sniffs the air. It paces. You see other shapes beyond it. Leopards, bears, perhaps wolves, each in its own cage, waiting its turn. The executioners stagger the releases, one animal at a time. You are told to stand still, but you move anyway. Instinct overrides instruction. Your bare feet slide in the sand. The lion lowers its head. The crowd hushes. A sudden trumpet blast startles it. It charges. You turn and run. The chain drags behind you, slowing your stride. The arena is a circle with no corners, nowhere to hide. You aim for a low wall barely waist high. The lion leaps before you reach it. You fall. Its paw clips your shoulder. Pain blooms. You roll. The crowd cheers. A guard tosses a javelin into the arena, not for you, for the lion. They will not let it kill you too quickly. You scramble toward the weapon. Grip it. Turn. The lion circles. You jab. It backs off. You jab again. Miss. It lunges. Some in the stands are on their feet now, shouting wagers. Children lean forward. Old men squint. A woman laughs. You land a blow. The javelin nicks the lion's side. Blood glints. The beast roars, but it does not retreat. Historians still argue whether these events were pure executions or sometimes turned into impromptu fights. Some records suggest the condemned were armed to prolong the show. Others claim the weapons were blunt, decorative, a farce. You swing again. The lion dodges. A door opens. Another animal emerges, this one leaner, faster. A leopard. Its spots shimmer in the sun. Now 2 predators pace around you. The lion watches. The leopard tests the air. You stand still, heart pounding. The crowd quiets. Then chaos. The leopard strikes first. A blur of motion. Teeth at your leg. You fall. The lion follows slow but sure. You kick. You scream. A guard signals. The beasts are called off not for mercy, for drama. You are dragged away bleeding but alive. You will return tomorrow, or the next day, until you don't. The crowd applauds. The sand is raked. Another man is brought out. The show continues. You lie on a slab backstage. A medic presses cloth to your wounds. He hums tunelessly. You do not thank him. Others lie nearby, some moaning, some silent, all waiting their turn again. The guards drink wine. The animals are fed. You hear the roar of the next victim. Rome watches. Always. The water sloshes beneath your feet. You are knee-deep in the shallows of an artificial lake dug by slaves, filled by aqueduct, ringed with wooden stands where thousands of spectators sit shaded by canopies. The sun blazes overhead. Flags flutter. Musicians tune lyres and pipes on a nearby platform. This is not a harbor. This is a theater of death. You are one of 200 condemned men crammed into a wooden barge made to look like a Carthaginian trireme. It creaks with each shift of weight. Painted eyes stare out from the hull. Your oar blisters your hands. The man next to you has a chain around his ankle. You do not speak. You row. A trumpet sounds. The mock naval battle, Naumachia, is underway. Across the lake, another vessel approaches. Its sails are painted with red streaks. Men scream. Bows rise. Javelins shimmer in the air. You are given no armor, only helmets made of molded leather, a short sword tied to your waist. The command is simple: kill or be killed. You plunge the oar into the water. The barge lurches forward. Around you the shouts grow louder. In the stands, senators sip wine. Nobles fan themselves. The emperor leans forward in his seat. His face is unreadable. Naumachii were staged by emperors to impress the public, to mark great occasions, or to distract from political unrest. Augustus hosted the first large-scale version using a specially built basin. Later emperors like Claudius and Titus followed suit. Entire lakes were drained and repurposed. Forests were cleared for wood. Slaves and prisoners were drafted to die. You grip your oar. Muscles tremble. The opposing ship closes in. A spear is thrown. It strikes a man 3 seats ahead. He jerks, falls. Water fills the gap. You're ordered to switch from rowing to fighting. The sword feels heavier than it looks. You step over the fallen slip, nearly drop it. Boarding begins. Planks crash into place. The enemy swarms aboard. You parry, slash, miss. The man you face snarls, but he's no soldier either. Just a prisoner from another province. The blade catches your side. You stumble. Another man pulls you up. You don't thank him. There's no time. The deck becomes slick with blood and water. Bodies pile at the bow. Someone shouts mercy. No one answers. Historians still argue how many died in these battles. Some accounts list thousands. Others suggest smaller symbolic encounters. But the outcome was never in doubt. These were not drills. These were executions in costume. A man dives overboard. Arrows follow. The splash is swallowed in foam. You lunge. Your blade sinks into a shoulder. He falls. You step back. More ships collide. The drums beat faster. You are ordered to return to the oars. The enemy has been repelled for now, but the water is red. Your ship lists slightly. Too many dead. You hear screams from the far side of the lake. One vessel is on fire. Flames climb its mast. The heat reaches even here. The crowd roars. You row again. Your arms ache. Blisters tear open. Blood mixes with sweat. The air smells of pitch seawater and death. Above gulls circle. You glimpse the emperor once more. He is laughing now. A senator beside him lifts a goblet. Another trumpet. Your ship is hit broadside. You are knocked from your seat, into the water. The cold stuns you. You sink. Hands reach up flailing. Chains pull some down. You kick, rise, gasp. The surface is chaos. A javelin splashes nearby. You dive. Underwater it's quieter. Warped shapes move overhead. A body floats, eyes open. You surface again, clutching the broken stern. No one sees you. You hold your breath, slip behind wreckage, drift toward the reeds at the lake's edge. Perhaps if you stay still, they'll think you're dead. Perhaps. But even if you escape the lake, you are still a condemned man. And Rome always finds its condemned. The chain digs into your shoulder as you swing the mattock. Dust rises with each strike. You bend low, carving furrows into hard soil beneath the mid-morning sun. Your hands blister. Your back burns. The field stretches for miles, olive trees at the edge, wheat stalks further on. You're not farming by choice. You're here as punishment. A nexum debtor. Debt slavery. You borrowed money. Couldn't repay it. You were brought before a magistrate. The creditor showed the contract. The interest had mounted. You failed to settle. The law was clear. You were seized. In early Rome, debt wasn't merely financial. It was physical. If a man defaulted, he could be taken into bondage until repayment, or until death. You live now in a rough barrack on the estate. Straw mat, no doors, just open walls and dry wind. Each morning begins with the same order: dig, haul, prune, lift. Each night ends with bleeding hands and silence. The overseer carries a rod. He speaks little. When he does, it's to correct posture, increase pace, or assign lashes. You swing again. The soil gives slightly. You plant the seed. Cover it. Move on. Debt slavery nexum was widespread during the early republic. It bound plebeians to creditors, usually aristocrats. The agreement was sealed by ritual, a scale, a coin, a verbal oath. Once bound, the debtor served until the loan was repaid, if ever. You carry a basket of stones to a pile. A wheel breaks. You repair it with rope. No reward, just fewer strikes. Some slaves here are born to it. Others, like you, fell into it. A failed harvest, a sick parent, a lost shipment. You signed the contract thinking you'd escape in weeks. That was seasons ago. You walk past a man chained at the ankle. He hums softly. His eyes are blank. You ask how long he's been here. He says nothing. Historians still debate how formal the system was. Some say nexum was abolished in the 4th century BCE by the Lex Poetilia Papiria. Others believe the practice lingered unofficially, especially in the countryside. Paper laws meant little when landowners owned everything around them. You lift a barrel of olive oil. It sloshes. You brace. Your muscles scream. Your master watches from the shade of a portico sipping wine. He gestures once. A slave brings him figs. You have no name here. Just the number burned into your collar tag. 211. Your meals are plain barley porridge, a few olives, water that tastes of metal. You sleep among men with hollow eyes and stitched wounds. Escape is pointless. You are branded. Your gait marked by exhaustion. No one will shelter you. If caught, the lashes triple. You recall the contract you signed. It was 3 lines. It's 3. You didn't read the fine print. You dig again. The sun arcs overhead. By dusk, your hands are numb. You kneel at the trough. Drink deep. The overseer calls roll. You mumble your number. Someone is missing. The guards search the woods. Find him at dawn, hanging from a cypress. He will not be replaced. Labor is cheap. You wash your face in the irrigation ditch. The water is cold, lined with sediment. You stare at your reflection. Dirt smeared. Hollow-cheeked. You ask a companion if release is possible. He shrugs. Only if the master forgives your debt. Has anyone been forgiven? He doesn't answer. You lie on the mat. Your joints ache. The night air chills your bones. In the distance, a wolf howls. Closer still, an iron gate slams shut. Rome tracks its debtors, and it rarely forgets a balance. The courtyard is silent. You sit cross-legged on a worn mosaic floor, tracing the faded tiles with your thumb. A column leans slightly overhead. Cracks spider out from its base. This is your family home. It does not feel like yours anymore. Your father stands before you, scroll in hand. Your mother watches from a shaded bench, lips pressed together. No lawyers, no neighbors, no magistrate, just family and law. You've been accused of disobedience. Maybe it was refusal to marry, or squandering your inheritance, or taking a lover without permission. It doesn't matter. In Rome, the father holds all power. He is the pater familias. You are his to correct. You're 17. In Roman eyes, still a child. Your brother stands to the side, silent older. He has watched this ritual before. The scroll is read aloud. Your name, your age, the offense, the prescribed punishment. A slap, not hard, symbolic. But then comes the real sentence: removal from the family. A parent in Rome could disown a child, erase their name from the household, legally eject them from inheritance protection and even citizenship rights. Sons, daughters. There was no formal trial, only a declaration. Historians still argue whether daughters were disowned as frequently as sons. Records lean toward male cases. But stories circulate whispers of girls locked away, married off, sent to cloisters for defiance. Disobedience was not gendered. Punishment rarely spared anyone. You rise to your feet. Your father gives a short nod. A servant approaches carrying a plain cloak. Your colored toga is removed. The cloak is draped over your shoulders. It is coarse, unadorned, meant for the statusless. You are told to leave the home by dusk. Your younger sister weeps quietly in the doorway. Your mother clasps her hands but says nothing. Outside, the street is noisy. Merchants argue. Donkeys bray. Life continues. You stand on the steps a long time before walking. You are not arrested. You are not whipped. But something more vital has been taken, belonging. You wander toward the Suburra Rome's dense neighborhood of lower-class homes and markets. You find a small room for rent. The man at the door asks no questions. You hand him a coin. He shrugs, points upstairs. In time, you might rebuild your standing. Perhaps join the army, or apprentice with a tradesman. But your name no longer carries weight. No more family festivals. No more invitations. No more title on the family tomb. In the forum, a magistrate posts the day's announcements, a new list of public names. Yours is absent. You no longer belong on the wall. In rare cases, a disowned child could be adopted into another family, or later forgiven. But it was rare. Forgiveness required effort, petition, public groveling. Even then, the father had no obligation to change his mind. You visit a friend. He invites you in politely, offers bread. But his eyes flick toward your cloak. He knows. His father will hear of the visit. It may not happen again. You learn to live alone. You take work hauling grain from the docks. The pay is low, the weight heavy, but no one asks about your father. At night, you sit by the Tiber, watch lamps shimmer across the water. You try to remember the exact moment you crossed the line. The word you said, the gesture you made. It blurs now, like the faded tiles in your old home's entryway. Sometimes in dreams you hear your name being called at dinner, your seat untouched, your cup still full. But when you wake, the room is cold. The punishment was not loud. It was not violent. It was quiet, final, and fully Roman. You kneel on polished marble. The chamber is dim. Curtains block the windows. Incense curls slowly toward the ceiling. No bird song enters this room. No footsteps echo from the halls. This is the emperor's private court. You are not here to petition. You are here to endure. The guard behind you shifts his weight. His armor clinks faintly. Before you, the emperor sits wrapped in dark silk, his fingers adorned with rings, his expression unreadable. He leans slightly forward. You do not raise your eyes. This is not a court of law. There are no scrolls, no judges, no advocates. This punishment will not be recorded. It will not be announced in the forum. It will not be remembered in any public way. And yet, it will be known. The emperor speaks. His voice is soft, almost a whisper. You are accused of an offense, not treason, not theft, but inconvenience. Perhaps you offended a favorite. Perhaps your face reminded him of someone unpleasant. Perhaps you simply existed too visibly on the wrong day. He lifts a finger. A servant enters carrying a tray. On it rests an egg, a needle, a single coin, and a small cage containing a rat. You swallow. There will be no lash, no brand, no cross. This punishment is personal. The emperor selects the rat. Gestures. The servant approaches. You are held down. The rat is placed in a metal pot. The pot is upturned and pressed against your stomach. The guard lights a small flame beneath the vessel. You scream. The rat in panic claws downward toward escape. Through you. This is not punishment in the civic sense. This is theater. A performance for one. You lose consciousness. When you wake, you lie on a cot in a dark room. A physician tends to your wound. You are told you will live. For now. You are not dismissed from duty. You are not formally punished. No one acknowledges what happened. But guards look away when you pass. Slaves do not speak in your presence. Later, someone says the emperor once punished a senator by sewing his mouth shut with gold thread. Another was forced to eat glass, disguised as candy. A soldier was made to fight a tiger with his hands bound. Historians still argue which stories are true. Suetonius, Tacitus, and Dio left conflicting accounts. Some claim exaggeration. Others say worse was never recorded. You walk through the imperial garden at dusk. Peacocks shuffle between hedges. Statues of Apollo and Mars cast long shadows. The wound throbs beneath your robe. You sit by a fountain. The water trickles softly. A slave passes, head bowed, carrying scrolls. You are still alive, but you are no longer whole. You sleep on the edge of your bed, flinching at every sound. You eat little. You speak less. You are never summoned again. But the memory follows. even as the next season comes, even as the emperor grows bored, even as new victims are chosen. The private punishments of the powerful rarely echo, but they never fade, not in your body, not in your mind, and not in the halls of Rome. Now the stones are quiet, the fires have cooled, the chains lie still in their corners, the gates are closed, the crowds have gone. Rome slumbers beneath a blanket of warm wind and moonlight, its monuments casting long shadows across empty forums. You drift now through these ancient streets, barefoot and unnoticed. Your steps echo softly against columns worn smooth by time. The scent of crushed lavender drifts from a garden nearby. A distant fountain bubbles in slow rhythm. A silk curtain sways gently in an open window. Behind each wall, a story rests. A punishment finished. A sentence served. A name lost. You pass the temple of Vesta, its hearth long extinguished. You walk along the Tiber, its waters calm, no sacks sinking beneath the surface tonight. A lion dozes in its cage. A spear lies on the sand, forgotten after the last mock battle. The amphitheater's arches rise behind you, massive and empty. Somewhere a wax tablet still bears your name. Somewhere else it has been scratched away. But here in this moment there is no pain, no guards, no judgments, only silence. Let your breath settle. Let your shoulders soften. Let the past fade into stone. Your feet slow. Your eyes grow heavy. The air is warm now. The stars are steady. The road beneath you flattens, then fades into mist. Close your eyes. Let Rome fall behind you.